In this video, I show you the basics of detailing in Autodesk Revit. Let's get into it. To get started, if you haven't got access to a library of details or a server or anything like that, then what I would invite you to do is give it a look online. And there are plenty of standard details out there, but then I would double check that with manufacturer details as well. Don't just copy the first thing you see. So there's no harm in looking at a detail, taking inspiration from it, and then working something up. But make sure then that you are testing that detail in the appropriate places. And that is actually one thing that we do give a bit of advice on. Ultimately, the liability does sit with yourself or your practice. We are happy to give a bit of detailing advice to our members. Anyway, so what I've done is I've Googled masonry wall foundation, and I have found quite a nice detail that does appear to me that it works. So what we want to do to start us off is create a wall and a floor. So we want to go to a basic wall, and we want one that's reasonably close to what we're going to do, and it's it's a brick wall. So that'll do us. Let's just make a simple box like so. Select that, edit type, duplicate, and we'll go RBA, external wall, jump in. If this on the side isn't showing, it's the preview button down there. Right, so then what we've got is brick, cavity of 50mm, 45mm insulation, and so on. So what we want to do in this instance is we're just going to go for a full 100mm full fill insulation. The thickness and type of insulation is obviously project dependent, so I'll leave that with yourselves. So I'll go 100mm there, 100mm concrete, masonry, block work and things like that. And then before we get to the plaster, we just want to leave a little 10mm zone for what are called dot and dab. So we'll call that substrate. And just air layer will do. Okay, so that's the wall type that we're working with. Then we want to move to floor, and we'll go to a ground bearing, out the box, floor type. Sometimes you need to just use the align tool to get it spot on. And we want to go to the inside face of the block work. I've actually noticed that it's only affected that wall there, so let's just select them. That's because I created them first, of course. There we are. Then nice quick section through. Let's just change the scale to 50 so it's a bit easier on the eye. Then let's jump to that section. Give ourselves a bit of a window. Set this to 1 to 5 because we're doing a proper detail. And set the detail to fine. And now we can work it up. So, to mimic this detail, we do need to tweak the ground slab a little. So duplicate RBA, ground slab, edit. And then we actually want to start with the concrete. So we get rid of the concrete slab. Let's just change that to 150. Then there's a membrane layer that separates the concrete from the insulation beneath. So we'll just insert a thermal layer there. Type in insulation. Any of these will do because we'll just label it correctly when it gets to the point. We'll set that to 150 as well. And then there's another layer, another membrane layer there. And that is separating the insulation from the sand blinding beneath. Okay. Now, when you hit OK, it has a little moan about the core boundary. So the layer function, error 06, it cannot ascend from the core boundary. So to get round that, all you need to do is just bring that core boundary down below layer, what was the layer 6. And it sorts that out, thankfully. Okay. Then what we want to do with this is we want to bring it beneath the ground level. So base offset, and you do minus, let's just do it a meter. That then gives us the opportunity to place a foundation. Let's just do the same there. Just while we're here, you are better connecting them like that. Then we go into structure, foundation, and we just add that to the walls. And there we are, that's not a bad little starting point. By the way, it is nice to just drag that on and just see how it's sitting. So I'm just using the default title block here. So what I like to do is just envisage how it's going to sit on a sheet. Like that. So let's jump back into the section. Now what we want to do is create line types. So manage, additional settings, line styles. Create a new one. We'll call that membrane. And I do like the way these have distinguished with colours. So you've got your damp-proof membrane beneath the insulation, and then you've got a vapor control / separating layer. So let's actually rename that to damp-proof membrane. That one's a thickness, decent thickness, and just a dashed pattern. This is then drawn with detail lines. We'll hit DL for that. And it should appear up here, DPM, there we go. That then comes up the face of the block work, and then it's in line with the finish level of the slab, but it's 150mm above exterior. So actually the slab level should be offset 150, like that. And then you'll put a damp-proof course on top. Let's just turn the line thickness on. So you can see how that's looking. That then of course wants to move there. So let's go back into the line styles and let's give that a colour. and we'll just be quite liberal with it. Let's copy how they've done it green. So that will do us. Then you'll notice there is this little perimeter bit of insulation. We'll factor that in a sec. But it's normally 20 mil, something like that, 20-50 mil. And then the vapor control separation layer comes up the inside face of that. So line styles, new, we'll call it vapor control, again nice thickness, and a dash. DL, vapor control, that does something like that. And then one last one is damp proof course, and we'll do that in a black. And this sits on top of, you know what, we'll keep it solid as well. This sits on top of your DPM. It like laps over for ultimate protection, and that is on both leaves of masonry. I'm just going to do a little filled region as well too. We don't want any lines on it other than the top one, so we hit invisible. We'll just give that top one a thick, wide line. That then gives us something to set this 150 off. Just bring that down just for the sake of the drawing. I would note that as well. DPC 150 off external ground level. Edit the type here, you can change font and things like that. I'll just keep it on Arial for now, but I just like a nice 15-degree filled arrow. To then get the most from our model before we use any annotation and line work and things like that, what you do is you select your element. So we'll start with the floor, and then you select this amazing tool called Create Parts. What that does is it then breaks the floor and whatever other element into its component parts, so you can start to really finesse the final position. So remember when I mentioned this bit of perimeter insulation? That prevents thermal bridging from the inner leaf. We select the slab and we tick Show Shape Handles. We then drag that in, set it to 50 mil like so. Then we want to do the same with our plasterboard, because that doesn't go all the way. We may even add a floor finish to our floor. just so we can mess with that. We'll just give it a timber. Say 20 mil. And that would do something like that. I mean, you would leave a little gap at the bottom, and then there will be a skirting profile or something. Just do thin lines. Something like that. We also want to just change the view depth so we're not seeing everything in the background, just to 500. Let's just drag that up, and then same again here. We can get really precise with it. Like so. See the way this is clashing a little bit? I just want to, I'll just drag that off a tiny bit, just so the line work of that inner leaf is spot on. Okay, now nice easy one is to start to draw our insulation. So how I like to draw the aggregate fill, or the position of it, is in line with the sand blinding there. And then really we want to create a little region. We will give this thin lines as an edge. We want to actually create a new region. Call it concrete, and it'll give us that pattern. That'll do in this instance. Select the lines. There's our fill. Then insulation, nice and easy, 100 mil. Drag that down, send it to back so it sits behind that region we've just made. If you hit tab, it cycles through your selections that you're hovering over. Same here. Now you'll notice that there's a different pattern there because that's actually identifying what is a soft insulation and a rigid insulation. So let's actually use a region. We can get that nice and complete. It should remove that line there as well. Send that to back. Then we want to just drag the membrane below there. Like so. Then the next thing is to overlay our brickwork and blockwork, and in that, or how to get to that, sorry, is annotate component, repeating detail component. Now what they've done here is they've introduced blockwork one course below ground level. Let's let the blockwork dictate that. And then we can hide these two elements once we're ready as well, which is great. So I let the blockwork dictate where to start my coursing. With a 10mm offset. Send that to back. Now you'll see here that we've got a bit of a clash with where our DPC wants to go as well. So actually, what we want to do is we can change our foundation depth. Move that down 10mm. And what's the difference there? 20mm roughly. Your foundation depth will be set by the engineer, by the way, so you will receive that information on a project. And you see the way everything kind of updated in line with that as well. That's the beauty of Revit. Okay, so that's got a 10mm offset. If you wanted to be really precise, you could draw a little mortar little joint in there. I think that looks nice. Copy that over. And then what's happened there is, because we've let the blockwork lead it, and then the brickwork works in accordance, we've then got our nice equal DPC line there. And then we want to just hide the model element in the background. Then to finish us off, I did say I'd keep that font, but it's bugging me. Let me change that to our company font, which is Futura. Hit that and hit CS for create similar. I'll keep the notes just simple. Again, this relies on you doing a bit more research and making sure that the specification of everything's spot on. When it comes to block work, that is the structural elements of the wall, so that'll be dictated by the engineer. So there's a certain density and thing that you need to specify. With brickwork, you need to specify the exact brick and things like that. I'm just going to keep it quite generic at the minute. I'm just showing the principles of how to detail in Revit. So 100mm block work. plasterboard on dot and dab. $150mm ground slab with 20mm finish zone. You might do something like, to client preference or something like that, or to TBC by client. Floor finish and things, obviously, some of the last things you'll end up specifying. What is the thickness of that, actually? 50mm. 50mm sand blinding on hardcore base. Facing brick. We've labelled the DPC anyway with that note. I want to just move that there to give us a bit of space. That needs to just move down. I'm just using the inbuilt snap, so it's got a little bit of consistency to it. DPM. Vapor control. Separation layer. Let's move these out. It's nice to let things align with one another. So because I was struggling to get that in, I've just moved them all along to suit it. $150mm. Rigid insulation. Foundation, design, and depth by engineer, something like that. Now, one little thing to maybe just top this off a little bit is the hardcore is what's called like backfilled into the trench that's made before the foundation goes in. So you get this diagonal line there. So what you can do is another region. And then we can just draw something like that. And that then just gives us that look we're after. That's up to you. One thing to be very careful of is when you're using parts and regions and masks and overlays, you've got to stay on top of things. So if you make a model change, make sure you're working through your details to see if there's any knock-on effect. It does really require so I was just hiding that. It really does require that extra bit of diligence when you're doing your details, because there are certain things here that won't always carry through, automatically with your model. So make sure you're paying attention. Don't rush. Don't let people rush you. It's better to be a day late and it's right than rapid and it's wrong. Believe me. Let's change that to foundation level. external ground level, something like that. And one last thing before we finish is the wall tie. Now again, you would really download a proper Revit family from a provider like Ancon, but we're just going to draw a detailed line in, and it's the first on this. It's like the first course of block work. Now where I've said like on this, it's the first course of block work above the slab. Things like that you can find from manufacturers, so make sure you're double checking things like that. Let's just go for a medium line. And I'm just ironing what that would look like. Again, as I say, I would encourage you to take that from a manufacturer's website, speak to them, get the right size for the type of cavity and masonry you're using, and then they often have downloads, whether it's a Revit family or even a CAD one, that you can then just bring in as a component to just overlay onto your detail. There we are, a nice, easy, basic detail in Revit. Cheers.